What is the darkest thing you have done? When I was 14, my little brother Tommy was diagnosed with bone cancer. The doctor said he needed immediate treatment. My parents promised they'd be there every step of the way. My mom cried and said we'd fight this as a family. For the first week, they kept their word. But then my dad started drinking heavily. He'd come home drunk and yell about how expensive Tommy's treatments were. My mom threw herself into work, saying she needed overtime to pay medical bills. I started taking Tommy to his chemotherapy sessions alone. At 14, I learned how to hold him while he vomited, how to change his clothes when he was too weak, and which foods he could keep down. The nurses thought I was much older because I handled everything myself. Tommy would cry at night asking where mom and dad were. I'd lie and say they were working late. Really, they were at bars or parties. They'd post photos on Facebook about needed breaks and self-care, while their 10-year-old son fought for his life. One night, Tommy's temperature hit 105. I called my parents 23 times while rushing him to the ER. Dad texted back 6 hours later. At poker night, everything okay? Tommy almost died that night. I was the one who stayed awake for 48 hours straight, watching his vitals. When Tommy lost his hair, my parents didn't even notice for 2 weeks. They were too busy planning a vacation to deal with the stress. I learned to shave his head gently and tell him he looked cool like his favorite superhero. The breaking point came during a critical surgery. Tommy needed family blood donors. I was too young to donate. Mom was at a concert. Dad was too drunk to give blood. The doctors had to use the blood bank, which wasn't as good for Tommy's recovery. 5 years later, Tommy beat cancer. My parents threw a huge party, invited all their friends, and made speeches about never giving up on their son. They hadn't even been to a single doctor's appointment in the last 3 years. Then last month, Dad was diagnosed with terminal cancer. Aggressive, painful, spreading fast. He needed round-the-clock care and strong painkillers. Mom called me crying, begging me to help, since I knew all about cancer care. I agreed to manage Dad's medications, but every night, I flushed his painkillers down the toilet. I watched him scream in pain, just like Tommy had screamed while they were out partying. When he begged for his pills, I'd say, "Sorry, the prescription isn't due for refill yet." The nurses were confused why his pain was so bad. I told them he must be building up a tolerance. Meanwhile, I sat beside his bed, watching him suffer, remembering how he'd ignored Tommy's suffering for years. Last week, Dad died in horrible pain. At his funeral, Mom hugged me and said, "Thank you for being there when I couldn't handle it." She never knew that every time Dad screamed in pain, I thought about Tommy screaming while they were too busy to care. Tommy's in college now, studying to be a doctor. He doesn't know what I did, and he never will.